AI Realized, the podcast about everything that is new, now, and next for enterprise executives deploying AI. Hosted by myself, Christina Elwood, and my collaborator, David Yakubovich.
Our guests will share what's driving AI adoption, use cases, and business models for the data and AI economy.
Where the future is bright.
Welcome to AI Realized, the podcast for enterprise executives leading AI deployments. From addressing security, data, and operations challenges to managing the organizational and management changes, AI deployment presents the opportunity to redesign our organizations from the inside out. I'm Christina Elwood, your host for today's episode. We're talking today with Isar Meitis, the CEO of Multiplai. Isar, welcome to AI Realized.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to talk to you about this.
Yeah, so let's talk today about your blueprint for a successful implementation of AI in an organization. I think that's relevant to everyone who'll be listening to our podcast.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest question people are asking themselves, right? How do I get started? Or if I got started, how do I make this a company-wide initiative versus I have Gina in HR and John in marketing, like tinkering with this? How do I make this a thing? And I've been teaching a course to executives for a year and a half now. So hundreds of business executives have been through the course, and I've been consulting to businesses. So this has refined itself through the last year and a half based on real scars that, that I got in the year and a half that I've been doing this. But the very first step of those things that you got to do is continuous education. You got to find a way for you, your team, your leadership, your employees to stay on top of what AI capabilities is, where is it going, what the potential is, what the risks are, and so on. Now, it's not easy to do, but it's very rewarding if you figure out how to do this. And I'll give you a great example that I talked about this pre-show. There's a new tool by Google that's called Notebook LM. And that Notebook LM tool, it literally came out last week. It allows you to take notes and analyze stuff in a notebook style thing, but with some very cool AI capabilities. The coolest thing in there is you can take a file or a link, upload it, and turn it into a podcast that is just like this. So it's not reading the content, it's not summarizing the content. It's a conversation of two people, a guy and a girl, discussing and geeking about the topic of the document that you gave it. And when I listened to it the first time, which was the day they sent it out, so I like to check these things, it blew my mind. And I already have several use cases on how I'm using this for myself and for my clients and so on. So staying educated and on top of things is critical. The easiest way to do this is to follow the right people. Follow people who are practitioners, follow people who are thought leaders, follow people from the big companies, and just stay. And this could be on anything, right? You can do this on TikTok, you can do this on YouTube, you can do this on Instagram, on LinkedIn, like wherever it is, podcasting, wherever it is you consume content, it's fine. You can do that in order to stay educated. So that would be the very first thing. The second thing that ties into that, and then that becomes the process on how this thing survives and gets across the entire company, is starting an AI committee. So let's talk a little bit about who's in the committee, why you need a committee, what the committee does, and how does it work. The committee's role is to really help in implementing AI successfully across the organization. So let's talk initially about people. You want at least one person from each department. So you want somebody from HR, somebody from marketing, sales, etc. You want that for several different reasons. Reason number one is you get inputs from all the different departments as far as what your needs are, what you're struggling with, and so on. Limitations, technical limitations, and so on. Data privacy. So you get inputs from everybody. The second reason is you get champions in each and every one of the departments. So the implementation gets less resistance and somebody can help in actually getting this to the people at the end, like the people in the trenches who actually need to use this the most. So this is number two. Number three is you want somebody from the leadership team in that committee, preferably the CEO, but it doesn't have to be. Why? Two reasons. one, you lead by example. It shows that the company actually cares about this and that it's important to the company. But two, you want it to be an actionable committee. You wanted them to be able to make a decision and actually run with it versus, okay, now let's submit this as thing to this VP and they will present it. And then in 2 weeks, we'll get, you don't want that. You want to be able to move very quick because the AI moves very quick. And if you wait 3 to 4 weeks every time before you can start implementing something, you will miss a few good opportunities. So these are the people in the committee. Now, the other type of people you want in the committee, and that doesn't matter which department they're in, you want geeks. You want people like me, because then they will spend 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. playing with this new tool because they find it cool and interesting. And you're just going to make more progress faster. So that's the people in the committee. But what does the committee needs to do? So the very first thing the committee needs to do is define rules, guideline, regulations, guardrails, call them whatever you want to call them. And some of them are tactical and some of them are ethical, but they got to define the do's and don'ts of what you should and shouldn't do with what kind of data and what kind of scenario in your company with AI. You want to do this for two different reasons. Reason number one is it's going to prevent people from doing the wrong things, releasing data that they shouldn't, getting in trouble in places that they shouldn't, saying stuff that they shouldn't with because the AI sent it. I'm like, you should be in charge. I'm like, how am I supposed to know that? So rules and regulations. And then the second reason is once you have guardrails, once you have a fence, there's actual psychological experiments, but they let kids play with a ball next to not a cliff, but a cliff, like the edge of their playground. And when there was no fence, the kids were playing very far away from the edge. When there was a fence, kids were playing at the fence. So they filled out the entire playground and playing out the whole field. It's the same thing with AI. You want to encourage people to use AI. I'm going to talk about later how to do that. But you want to give people the boundaries so they feel safe to experiment within these boundaries. So that's the very first thing that the committee needs to do. As I mentioned, both tactical as well as ethical. Like it's very tempting to do things with this. Let's say, no offense to salespeople, I was a salesperson myself when I started my career. Many salespeople get compensated on results. And it's very tempting to close another deal, to close the quarter, to get the bonus, to buy the car. And what's acceptable and not acceptable as far as using these tools to close the next deal or whatever the case may be. And so rules and regulations are number one. Number two is what I said in the beginning, continuous education. The committee needs to be the group that divides and conquers. You listen to this, I'm going to watch that, you follow that YouTube channel, I'm going to read this newsletter, I'm going to aggregate this once a week, and the stuff that is relevant, that already has been digested, summarized, so it's easy to consume, is going to be distributed to the relevant people in the organization so they can benefit from that. So not everybody has to follow everything all the time. They have to plan training sessions and tests and so on to actually check that people are following and so on. So that's the second part of the committee. The third part of the committee is, what tools are we going to use? Then that's the $1 million question, because there's 3 new tools every about 6 minutes. And which one is best for us? And how much budget can we afford for that? So you don't want each person in your organization trying stuff out randomly. By the way, it's happening right now. Like the research is showing, if you go to McKinsey or all the other ones that published information about this, about 75% of employees are using AI tools that they're not reporting to their leadership. So people are already using the tools. You just don't know about it. So you want to have it under control. So there's clear governance on which tools, which data, and so on, and check the tools. Now, anybody can raise their hand and say, hey, I heard Isar on this podcast and he suggested this and it sounds perfect for our use case. Can I use it? Goes to the committee, tests it out, checks if how much is a license, can we use it, what about the data, blah, 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 blah. And then they decide if they want to do a test case about it. They do a test case. If the test case works, they distribute it, the right licenses to the right people. So then again, you have more control on what's actually happening in your company with AI. The follow-up step of that is, once you have a tool, I'll let you know a little secret, tools do absolutely nothing as far as your efficiency. Using the tools properly in the right process is. And so the committee is in charge of developing the right processes and the right procedures on how to use the tools to get these specific business outcomes that the business wants. And then training the people, the relevant people, so you don't have to train everybody. Like it could be different training to different kinds of people on how to use the tools. So that's another part of the committee's work. Another part of the committee's work is budget and infrastructure, right? Somebody has to define the resources for this whole thing to work. It doesn't happen in a vacuum. So you need budget for tools, you need budget for training. Guess what? You need time for the committee to experiment. If you're just going to tell, oh, you guys are the committee, but by the way, here's another marketing project and go and work on this business strategy, then when do you expect them to work on that? So there's resources that needs to be allocated, and the committee is the one that needs to define the required resources. They can obviously adjust it and so forth, so on and so forth, but they need to be able to be in charge of resources for AI, and they need to come up with a plan that will verify that there's an ROI on the investment on these resources. So here's what we're going to do. Here's how we're going to test it. Here are the test parameters. Here are the KPIs that we're going to put in place, both leading and trailing KPIs and so on. So that's about the committee. The other thing that a committee needs to do, and sometimes we do this with smaller committees, is the strategic thinking of how's that going to impact the industry, your business, your competitors, your clients. And so usually it's a smaller part of people because you don't want to expose everybody to these kind of conversations, but it's a smaller part of the committee that needs to be involved in these kind of conversations as well. So I'll stop here and let you ask any questions if you have it.
Thank you. That was very helpful and clear. And I can see where, as an input to that committee, some assessments might be necessary. And what do you recommend in that area?
Great question. I'm glad you asked. The 3 different assessments that needs to be done, that some of them are ongoing and some of them is more of a one-off every now and then. But the first one is strategic, as I mentioned before. Almost every industry will change dramatically in how people will use the things and the types of products and services they would be willing to pay for. Let's take 2 quick examples. The legal world today works on billable hours. X% of them goes to based on paralegal time. So let's say you run a law firm and 30% of your income is paralegal time. That's going to go away. Nobody, 3 years, 5 years, 7 years from now, will agree to pay for research because they will know that with one prompt, you get the information. Now, if you're a paralegal, start thinking of how to diversify your capabilities in your career. But if you're a law firm and sometime in the next 5 years, you're going to lose 30% of your income, that's significant. How do you plan for that from a strategic perspective? Same thing, people writing code. All these code writing tools are already very good right now. What are they going to be in 3 to 5 years? If I'm running a software company, how many code writers and developers I actually need? What roles do they need to have? What do I need to teach them in order to stay ahead of the game? Which leads me to number 2. Number 2 is HR skills gap analysis. What do my people know today? What do they need to know either tomorrow on some of the things or in 2 years for some of the things in order for my company to stay competitive? So do the mapping of where the world is going, what skills you need to be successful in that new world, and then do you need to hire for those skills? Do you need to train for those skills and so on? And the third thing is low-hanging fruits, right? So what are tactical small things you can do right now that will save you time, save you money, make your operations more efficient across every aspect of your business? So every department has between 57 to 230 processes that they do. And first of all, you can use AI to map these processes. But once you mapped the processes, you now need to figure out, excuse me, how much of these you can automate or use AI in order to accelerate the process and make it more efficient. So strategic, tactical, skills gap analysis.
Got it. Okay. Now, this is a big change for a lot of the folks in our organizations. How do you recommend driving adoption and creating excitement for people about this change?
I'm glad you asked. It's an awesome question. And when I talk to people, when I do my consulting on my courses, I tell everybody, people think it's the tech part of it that is exciting. At the end of the day, it's another exercise in change management, right? It's the people that will make it or break it. Like you can have the best AI tools and invest in all the greatest infrastructure, and you're going to fail in this transformation because you have to get the people on board. And to get the people on board, you need them to be on board. And that comes from several different things. The first thing I mentioned before, lead by example. Like I work with companies where the CEO is completely committed. He reads everything. He tests stuff out himself. He spends times at night. He shares it with his team, and it shows. The company is all energized around this AI capabilities and so on. And I have companies in which the CEO doesn't care. It's like, you guys take care of it and tell me what you found. And it's just not the same. So getting the actual real buy-in from leadership plays a very big difference. So that's number one. Number two, you want to encourage AI usage. So how do you encourage usage? That's a very big word, but what's the practical aspect of this? So number one, you want to talk about this regularly. You have a whole hands, have an item about AI implementation in your all hands every single week. You have team meetings, talk about what you're doing with AI in your team meetings. Share wins, celebrate wins. Dave in marketing was able to do this thing that used to take him 3 days and now takes him 37 seconds. And people go, holy crap, and invest 10 minutes in letting Dave explain what he did and how he got to it. And so when you celebrate wins, two things happen. First of all, people see that it's doable. It's not just this, oh, people saying AI, but I couldn't get it to work. So it's actually working. And the second thing is it shows that the company cares, right? If you gamify this thing, saying, okay, anybody who is able to do this and that gets a PTO, gets 3 tickets to take his kids to the movies, like whatever, it doesn't matter. Like there's different ways to build excitement around celebrating small wins, like small stuff that is day to day, but you aggregate 40 small wins across 40 different people in different departments, and your entire organization now is 5% more efficient than it was before, which is significant. So this is how you build excitement and encourage people to actually use. The other thing that I said is encourage people to experiment within the boundaries of the guidelines that you have defined. So tell people, don't be afraid, try this out. Just don't send this automatically to the client before you like go check your work before you do that. But that's another way to do this.
Great. So, in a world where everyone's using AI tools, how do you differentiate?
So there's two answers to that. I'll answer the first one, which is the more important one first, and then I'll go to the other one. The important one is human relationships. And the reason for that is human relationships have always played a very important role in businesses, especially B2B businesses, but it's going to become a lot more important. Research is showing that people that are bottom performers that are using AI are getting a significantly bigger increase in efficiency compared to top performers. And it makes sense, right? So if you know very little and now this tool can do a lot for you, you can double your results. If you're in the top percentile in your company, your industry, your department, your niche, it's going to be harder to get additional benefits. So it's going to improve your capabilities 5% instead of 100%. What that means is that the spread between the bottom performers and the top performers are going to get smaller and smaller over time. What that means, if you aggregate that, is that companies are going to get closer and closer together. The results of a company, you are now the leader in your industry, and there's people who are 30 places below you in the ranking, may close up the gap very quickly. So what's going to make the difference? Your relationships with your employees, the people you can drive and excite and motivate to do things for the business, your relationships with your ecosystem, so your suppliers, your distributors, your people that are not your direct competitors, and your relationship with your clients and prospects, because they will say, okay, everything's vanilla. Like I can go with you, I can go with this. Like you can all do this because none of you is actually doing it. AI is doing it for you, or X percentage of it. I will pick you because I trust you, Christina. And so doing that comes from go to trade shows, create your own events, be on podcasts, share your own content on social media, like all these things that are connecting you, building trust and relationships with other people will play a very big role in this new AI world.
Thank you. That was very good advice. As we wrap up, what would you like our listeners to take away from our conversation today?
Everything. I think the first thing is don't be afraid. Like a lot of people are really scared from this whole thing and they get into a paralysis of, I don't even know where to start. So, first of all, now we have a blueprint on how to start. Second is it really is about getting your hands dirty. You can listen to a million podcasts and you can follow YouTubers and you can do all of that. If you don't try and start playing with this, you will not learn. And if you do try, you may actually find this exciting and cool and interesting, especially if you have some bit of a geek in you. And so I do this now for myself. I do this for my company. I do this with my kids. My kids now love AI. They do this for work. They do this for fun. They do this for, it's really easy to build excitement around this once you start experimenting and seeing results.
Isar, CEO of Multiplai, thank you for talking with me today on AI Realized.
Thank you. This was absolutely awesome.